Joining us with more on local manufacturing is Greg Benson, the CEO and founder of Loll Designs, an outdoor furniture making company in Duluth. And welcome, Greg. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Loll is such an interesting story and a cool company. So for people who might not be familiar with it, give us the elevator speech.
Yeah, we're located in West Duluth, which, not too far from Spirit Mountain. We have two facilities there that we recently linked the two buildings together. They were right next to each other. So we're in about 70,000 square feet. We have 90 employees, roughly. And we make outdoor furniture is our primary business, out of recycled plastic. And our market is really North America, primarily, United States, but Mexico, Canada. And we have some international distribution as well.
Now, you were right in the middle of a move, I understand, at about the point where the pandemic hit. How did that impact operations for Loll?
Yeah, that was tough. So we have three buildings in West Duluth, and we had an annex building, which was our original building, where Loll had been temporarily operating some of the operation, and then we bought a building next to our headquarters. Sounds a little confusing, but about the time we finished that building and were ready to move in, and did move in, was in February. And so we were only operating in this new space for the month of March, and then we were shut down for April. So, with the manufacturing operation and all the processes and equipment and the layout is really important. And so we really didn't get settled into this new space when we had to shut down. So it was definitely had an impact. And then we started up again May 27th is when things were, when we were able to open. We couldn't get the essential worker, or we weren't an essential business during that in April.
Did operations look significantly different because of COVID?
Yeah, once we reopened, it was all CDC guidelines. Taking temperatures, asking questions, wearing masks, social distancing. And the really nice thing about our new space is we had more room. And in manufacturing, you don't want to use more room than you need. But we were able to really space everybody out. We didn't do like staggered shifts or anything like that. But they really wanted to come back to work. They didn't want to sit at home. I think they were bored. And people, I should say, our office staff that was able to, that most of their work's on a computer, that were able to stay at home and work from home, they did that. And we kind of said they were keeping the engine running, with still working with our customers and discussing, business and how we were going to keep things going. And that was probably, about 20% of our staff. We didn't lay anybody off. The PPP loan really helped us as a business. We had applied for that. And that still, I don't know if that has still been cleared yet. There's some issues with that yet for a lot of businesses.
So with everyone stuck at home during the pandemic and even working from home since then, lots of folks have been working on home improvement, yard improvement. Yeah. Good thing for your company.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone knows we've all been outside so much more, and that's the place that we live at Loll, is outside with our product. And unfortunately, we're so busy. We were behind because of the move, then we were behind because of the COVID shutdown, and then the demand just went through the roof. So we've been behind ever since, really since this year started. And so I guess we've benefited from, restaurants setting up outdoor spaces and people at home setting up outdoor spaces. But we're just so busy, and there's only so much we can do. We're running 3 shifts a day, 5 days a week, and it's still, it's hard to keep up with the demand that we're seeing right now.
Has it been hard to find local workers with the skills that you need for the manufacturing that you do?
We sort of have, again, we have this office staff, and then we have a production staff. And recently we've hired like 2 customer service people, someone in HR, someone in accounting. And then we've almost always been hiring production and assembly. The skilled part of that in our assembly is the CNC operation, and those are the machines that cut all the parts. And that in that regard, we look for people that maybe went to LSC and have a degree in running those machines or have experience running the machines. And then, of course, the office jobs, definitely we're looking for people that are experienced. And, there's, I think, to find the right people and a good fit for the company, there's always a little bit of a challenge with that. But we've got a really great team, and people, they care about what they're doing. We really pride ourselves in our low returns or customer complaints. And last year we shipped 60,000 pieces of furniture, pieces of items we made, and less than 1% of those we have issues with. Where there's missing bolts or hardware or something. So we really, back to your question on, is it hard to find people? I don't think so. But we definitely, the good people stick around for sure.
Are there challenges still in just the message out there for young people that there are good jobs in manufacturing to be had? Are you finding that there are barriers in that direction at all?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know that I'm in touch with anyone in that sort of that age group on a regular basis anymore. And I had mentioned to my wife recently that I remember Duluth when when I was younger and people said, well, there's no jobs here. And in fact, we started our business away from Duluth and then moved it back to Duluth. But we definitely have a younger staff, and I'm one of the older people around the business, and I think a lot of the people working at Loll aren't from Duluth, so we're definitely keeping people in town.
You drawing people because of the lifestyle, or are you having to come up with some creative incentives to get people to come here and stay here?
We have great benefits. As an employer in this town, you have to be competitive with that. And we look at what other businesses that do similar manufacturing, their benefits. We also pay. We try to pay above what we should. A living wage, and then we have a profit sharing program. We have paid time off, and just I think we in a nice environment to work. There's almost everywhere in our space, whether you're in the shop or the office, you can see outside. And that's an important thing. That's not just an oversight. We intentionally changed garage doors so they're glass garage doors so people can see outside. And those are the little things that we do. That try to make it a nice environment to work in.
So we're talking about Manufacturing Month. Why is it important for an area like the Twin Ports to really have a strong manufacturing base to work from? Yeah,
even before I understood the Twin Ports, I came from the Twin Cities in 1988 is when I first moved up here. But you can just see that there's industry and manufacturing, and we're a made in the USA product. And I think whatever town you're in, it's just important. It adds something to that town. It's real. We're making something right here, and then we ship it out to around the country or the world. And I not that other businesses are all valid for sure, but so many products are made outside of the USA now. So I'm really proud of, and I think everyone that works at Loll, that we're making something here in Duluth and shipping that out. And there's we get better at it all the time. So our skills are improved all the time.
Any advice or words of wisdom that you would offer local leadership to encourage growth in the manufacturing sector?
Yeah, I always plug the University of Minnesota. I'm an alumni from there, and that any help they can look at the manufacturing going on in the region and business and cater what they're teaching, and what students are learning. So when they come out, and if they want to stay here, which I think a lot do, it's a great place to live, that they have those skills that would be required to work here.
And what does the future hold for Loll, do you think?
Well, you know, we're going to just keep making outdoor furniture. I've been wanting to make an outdoor booth since we started Loll, and so that is one product that's on the table now. We're going to make that. But you know, I think just trying to expand our collection, just grow. You know, we really want to grow more. I guess try to do more international business has always been something that we've strove for as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, Greg Benson, thank you so much for coming in. Good luck as you move forward and as you work through the rest of the pandemic.
Thank you for
Appreciate you coming
having me.
in.
You're welcome.
Thank you.